This is Speaking of Writers. I'm Steve Richards. This is the Speaking of Writers podcast. I'm Steve Richards. The book is The Green Living Guide. The author is Seth Leitman. It's your ultimate guide to sustainable living in the 21st century. Leitman, a renowned environmental consultant and green energy enthusiast, distills his decades of experience into practical, actionable advice for eco-conscious individuals. Now he's going superhero to save the earth. This engaging graphic novel covers a wide range of topics from different types of renewable energy to reforestation. Leitman's accessible writing style makes complex environmental issues easy to understand, offering readers clear steps to reduce their carbon footprint without sacrificing modern comforts. Seth Leitman, known as the Green Living Guy, is a prolific author, blogger, and a sustainable living expert with 10 books to his name, including the Green Guru Guides series published by McGraw-Hill. Seth has established himself as a leading voice in eco-friendly practices and electric vehicle technology. His expertise stems from years of experience, including managing over $100 million in alternative fuel vehicle programs for New York State and spearheading the NYPA Think Clean Commute program. As president of the Greater Hudson River Electric Vehicle Association and a consultant for green companies, Seth brings a wealth of knowledge to his work in sustainable transportation, energy-efficient solutions, and renewable energy microgrids. His engaging approach combines expertise with humor, making complex eco-concepts accessible to a wide audience through his books, blog posts, and podcasts. What many don't know about Seth is his lifelong love for Superman. As a child, when Christopher Reeve's Superman movie was released, Seth donned the iconic costume, creating a cherished memory for his mother. This early fascination with a larger-than-life hero perhaps foreshadowed Seth's future role as a champion for the environment. In part, his latest book is dedicated to his mother, honoring that special moment and the support she's given him throughout his journey to become a real-life superhero for our planet. Happy to have
thank you, Steve.
Seth Leitman join me here on the Speaking of Writers podcast. Welcome.
This is great. This is an honor, and to be able to really launch the book here with this interview is more than exciting for me. So thank you for having me. It's an honor.
No, thank you for being here. So Seth, why this book for you?
Well, I wanted, after doing technical books, those 9 technical books with McGraw-Hill, I wanted something that was more accessible to the masses, something that even kids can get wrap their heads around. You know, they talk about pollution, climate change, and the environment, and that the future is with our children. So I figured I wanted to do something that can even reach children. Wasn't sure. And then a friend of mine just said once, you should come up with a comic book. And I just took off with that. It was the perfect timing for it. I could take everything that I have done throughout my life and kind of encapsulate it into something that was for kids to get their heads around and make it easy and accessible for them. It's so exciting. The opportunity to change genres, but yet keep the core of who I am in it. And then that whole thing about superheroing and everything, I love it. It's just so amazing to take a life's work and then give it to children for a better future. So
you've got a couple of interesting characters here. You've got Hannah the fox, right?
Hannah the fox.
And Athena the owl.
No, she's not an owl.
Athena's not an owl.
I'm sorry. I don't know how that got to you, but Athena is just this African-American woman who drives an electric motorcycle who helps me to get all the microgrids and the solar and the electric buses with school districts out there. Her job is to, help with the energy and the renewable energy electric car impacts. And then Hannah, of course, the fox, yes, I'm bringing animals into this in the future too, is to take care of the environment. We're planting trees. what a better uh, animal to help out is but the fox. So that was the whole method behind that.
Yeah. So how did you create these characters?
First by head.
Mm.
That's what I wanted. I was kind of envisioning what I wanted to do, and then I commissioned somebody to help me draw it out. We went through several iterations,
Mm.
so it's not a one trick pony on that one. And we got it just right, and we got Athena right, and Hannah the Fox was perfect, and we wanted to include children too into every page that we could, so that we were showing, like they were part of it. They were enjoying every little part of the steps to what we can do to make the environment a better place. So
We're chatting with Seth Leitman here on Speaking of Writers. His book is The Green Living Guy. It's available at writersrepublic.com, barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, and also very soon on ebook too.
yes, yes, very excited about that. Very excited.
You also tried to teach the difference between AC/DC electricity, alternating current, and direct current.
Yeah, yeah.
Give me the brief overview on those three.
Well, here's the simple put was that we showed a home with solar on it and using an electric car. We show the power lines taking the power, and we were showing it like even like with a little arrow directing it that goes into the house. So that's the direct current. It's directly from the grid to your house kind of thing. So that we tried to show that as direct current. And then the alternating are the things like the electric cars, your refrigerator, all those things. And we really tried to bring it home. I figured, they always say, what if you want to take away one thing from it, if they can get alternating and direct current differences, I man, that would be so cool. Like, because at least they would have a primer for
Mm.
going into science. And I think that is missing from a lot of books nowadays. So I tried to make it easy and accessible. So that was my one thing that I wanted to do that I felt was important for kids to learn. And I thought if they could learn just that, we're good. We're
Mm.
really good. Yeah.
Who are the Ozone Boys?
The Ozone Boys, the arch nemesis. My son came up with that name, believe it or not,
It's a
for
great
the
name.
Ozone Boys. They're the arch nemesis of the environment and the green living guy. They're trying to pollute, make sure oil refineries are out there, encourage plastic in the waters, all that kind of stuff. And their job is to keep it going nonstop. Stop one place, create in another. So we're always out there trying to help save the environment from the Ozone Boys.
You have a passion for sustainability. Where did that come from? Did it come from your mother?
Great question. Nobody's asked me it that way. No, I I think um, as a kid, kayaking and everything like that, I had an appreciation for water and the environment and drinking water versus just drinking it from the pond. You can't do that. Or I remember as a kid one time even just being riding in a boat in the Hudson, and knowing about the pollution in that. So maybe as a kid that was it. But when I got into my master's program, we had this orientation class, and we did these virtual seminars on where it was like you were a government, you had a team, and you were a government, and your goal was to make the healthcare great, the energy great, the environment great, education, and all these kinds of things to work together harmoniously. And we got it right, and we focused on having a sustainable environment. And my teacher there was a line of professors there after we won, and the one said to me, "Well, how are you going to power it? How are you?" And went through those questions, and I was like, I want to learn from this woman, and that was comparative international development, where I learned how uh, big institutions, government, like the World Bank, the IMF, were funding these power plants that weren't environmentally sensitive. And my goal was to try and learn how we, as an international community, through the World Bank, the IMF, the UN, create a more sustainable world. Um, just only on the environment and renewable energy and forestation and things like that. We didn't get into other social contexts like it is now. It was more just the environment and learning what sustainability was, which is more about life cycle of making a product to how we use our soil to how we what we wear to what we power. So it was very global, and in that context, I think I got the bug.
Mm.
That was the bug. That's what made me really get into that whole wave of it. And then after my master's program, I worked then for the state doing it, New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, where originally I thought I was going to do stuff with solar and wind power and things like that, but I started doing alternative fuel vehicles. And I didn't realize its impact that it has on the world. So a lot of the money that I managed had to do with transitioning in New York City. You'll probably know, like all the buses to hybrid electric. Now
Hmm.
there's electric buses, but back then we were just turning a diesel fleet into a hybrid electric fleet. And that was the first $100 million I managed there. And to see that transition and to see the stop and go and the amount of savings that the MTA had, I realized that not just hybrid, but this electrified movement was something. And sometimes I can see, I'm almost a futurist, I can see things coming down the track a long time. And I just stuck with it. I think one of the bigger issues was I went to this event in Atlanta when I worked for New York State, and we test drove a GM General Motors EV1, which was their first foray in the 90s back into electric vehicles. And it was as fast as the Tesla is now. And when I saw that, and when I felt that, uh, I said, I know what I'm going to do. And when I saw the writing on the wall, which is basically if you take electric cars and you put renewable energy power plants to it, you have zero emissions. You might have it on the creation side of those products, meaning the electric vehicles or the renewable energy, but you won't have it once you're using it. And I realized that the DOE, it was a thing from the Department of Energy, they said it. So I stuck with it. And I just, from there, while I was with New York State, I learned about energy efficiency, Energy Star, which are the stars that are on back of all of our appliances in the United States to make them energy efficient. All of those things I started learning about. And that bug just stayed within me throughout my life because I saw what it could do for our country. We talk about all these deficits and debts that we have. And if we just did energy efficient things, we could save this planet. And that, uh, I'll leave you with this when I say this, that my book, Green Lighting, which I did with McGraw-Hill, I gave a signed copy of it to James Cameron from Avatar. And I said, thank you for helping green light the environmental movement again through your movie Avatar. And he looked through it and he was reading it and everything. And he said, if we just did this in America, we could save our country. And it's true because there's so many different lights around the United States that we aren't energy efficient, which are costing more money for government and for school districts and for taxpayers and for all of us. So there's ways that we could do things so simplistic, and it's, how shall I say, as easy as screwing in the light bulb.
Mm. Seth, speaking of the country and renewable energy and solar
Sure.
and wind power, are you happy with the direction the country is going with it?
I'm currently happy with where we're going. I think that and I know that people are nervous with the transition administration, and of course there will be cancellations of certain things here and there. But even during President Trump, you saw Texas go wind power.
Mm.
You saw electric cars being sold to greater numbers than you ever had before. Um, I think that we are getting it, and we got it a long time ago, and we're just technologically catching up to what the market really wants. I've been talking about that for a while, that the market wants this stuff. We just need to introduce it. Now Chevy has their Equinox electric vehicle. Once you start introducing it, like for example, Honda's now taking off on their electric vehicle sales. They're starting to beat like Hyundai and Kia. Why? Because they did something I wrote about in my book, Build Your Own Electric Vehicle, which is don't try and create a brand new thing. Take one of your models and just make it electric.
Mm-hmm.
A Honda Prologue going electric with the proper range that it's got, about 300 miles. There is it makes all the sense in the world why it's taking off, because it's not creating something brand new. It's just changing the propulsion and giving you the amazing fuel efficiency, and you save a lot of money when you do that. It all makes sense. So my outlook for the future too, given that a lot of what President Biden did, as well as even before then, a lot of the Made in America stuff that happens now, President Trump started, a lot of the manufacturing lithium or the car companies, they're making them here in America. So if you shut down like the electric vehicle, this or that, you're killing electric vehicle projects in congressional districts that could possibly be Republican, which is what's happening. So I see those projects being showing us that we can do this and that we can drive down costs. Um, it's almost like what President Obama said: technology is going to take it to a different level that nothing can really stop it. And I always give the analogy, if I remember in the 90s holding a cell phone about that thick with the battery. Now it's like about that thin.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and things that we never thought we'd be able to do, we're doing again. Like Apple's talking about maybe a folding phone, like we used to do when we loved with our StarTACs back then.
Right.
So Motorola. So it's like we can do. Again, I bring it back to this optimistic love that I have for what I do. We can do great things. We could do technologically as well as basically environmentally great things. We could screw a light bulb in. We can plant trees. We can do great things if we just had the momentum and the will to do it. And I pray that this book helps our kids get themselves interested, get their parents interested, and then we can really make some real change. Because talking to politicians, sometimes I feel like I'm talking to a wall,
Mm.
but I know that children listen and they get it and they appreciate it and they want to do better. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think that if you start young, that's the other reason why I kept a coloring book in the back. Okay, maybe you can't read, like we were talking about, alternating your director, but you can definitely color in the back where we talk about things. And you can start there and then work your way into learning about the book. And I think all of those uh, ability to bring all that. And then the best part is there's other things that I can talk about. I didn't even talk about in this book. So I feel like in this outlet, the sky is the limit. And I haven't felt that in a while with my books or with things. So because how shall I say this? In certain industries that they can be very small, so it's cutthroat, and I don't feel that here. Every time I did something with this book, I only received open arms. I only received like, wow, how can I help you? And I was like, nobody said that when I was doing McGraw-Hill. But with this, they wanted to be a part of it. And that to me uh, were those callings, like those, okay, I get it. I'm doing the right thing. And that's what's exciting about this book, really, more than anything else. Oh, and another thing too, I'll let you know, which we just got word of today. We're going to have an audiobook.
Oh, great.
There will be an audiobook of this too. So stay tuned, folks. Keep your peeled out for it, or eyes peeled, because we're coming with not just an ebook, but with an audiobook as well. So
Great.
yeah,
that ebook will be out soon. By the way, who helped you with the graphics for this, the coloring book? Is it someone you knew, or was it
just
assigned?
it was I hired out. My son and I and my wife and I came up with visions of what we wanted it to. So you took like um, ideas from here and there, but I knew I wanted it to be something that definitely didn't look like Green Lantern, definitely didn't look like Captain Planet, definitely didn't look like all these other things. It was its own character, and we really worked hard on that. So I worked with an illustrator, just an illustrator. My editor comes from a family of editors from Time to Vogue and all this kind of stuff. And then my script writer, he did comic books. He does his own. So it was just like a team. It was a team.
It sounds like you had a lot of fun with this, and somehow I'm going to ask you next, what's next for you in your writing? I have a feeling there's going to be a sequel, perhaps?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's so many more ideas of how we can get people to go green simply uh, and efficiently and cost effectively too. And we haven't even talked about those. We just talked about in this electric, grandiose things like how we change the power of the grid or putting solar and energy storage in your house. No, there's more that we can do. And that's the great part about this book is that all those things that I did some work, a TV segment for New York City media where we did segments on different aspects of going green. And all of that now I can just apply to these books and more. There's so many more different ideas. Saving the wolves, saving, forests and saving, different types of species. So many different ways we can go with it. And it's inclusive. My goal was to be inclusive. I did not want anybody to look at the book and feel like it wasn't for them.
He is the Green Living Guy, and that's the name of the book, The Green Living Guy by Seth Leitman. It's available at writersrepublic.com, barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, soon on ebook, and soon as an audiobook, too.
You got it. Yes.
And there's much more to come from him. We're going to hear a lot
And
more.
many more to come. Many more to come. This is only step one. Just so you learn the characters and we started off. It's exciting. Really.
Seth, thank you so much for joining me.
Steve, again, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you so much for this podcast. And it's been a pleasure meeting you. Very honored.
Same
Thank you
here.
again.
Thanks so much. The Green Living Guy by Seth Leitman. And this is the Speaking of Writers podcast. This is Speaking of Writers. I'm Steve Richards.